So now that I've had the iPhone 10 for a couple of weeks, it's time for my final thoughts on the device. Now I've kind of held off on making any videos for it just because I've been fairly torn overall. You're paying $1,000 for something, you kind of want to make sure it's 100% what you want. But as usual, let's start from the beginning, and that's with the build quality. Just like the 8 Plus I had, it's got that little bit of extra heft that you can appreciate and makes it feel like you're kind of getting your money's worth out of it. And they did a nice job with the glass back, despite being fairly fragile and expensive to fix. The only complaint I would really have is two things. Why can't we get a fingerprint sensor and that logo on the back? That'd be pretty slick and give you two options like OnePlus did. And this vertical camera here, from what I understand, this is because of the now famous notch. They had to put it off to the side, and it just kind of stands out in the wrong way to me. But I don't know how else they could have really done it, because I don't make cell phones for a living. But it kind of got it's got that, if you don't have a case on it, you got that little bit of a weird wobble there, obviously, because it protrudes quite a bit and is offset. You've got the stainless steel side, which, obviously is going to be fairly durable, but it will scuff up over time that you'll have to keep clean or polish if you're particular about it. It just looks a little dated in my opinion, and some say this is to make it look like the first iPhones that came out because this is potentially an anniversary model. Some say it's not. The reason why they called it a 10 doesn't really matter. Got a large power button, odd choice, but it works well. I like it being a little bigger there. You don't have a little tiny button to worry about. Didn't expect Apple to really do that. I was very surprised when I took it out the box that it was like that. And then you kind of standard, nothing special, nice volume rockers with a good feel on the left, and that switch, which I really like because I typically do just have it flipped off just because of where I work. I don't like my phone going off all the time when I'm talking to people. And you got your down-firing speaker, which is decent with that earpiece. I did feel like my 8 Plus maybe was a little better, but only in the sense that this had some distortion when you're at the very top end of what it could do, and I actually believe there might have been an update for that. I actually haven't done the latest update, but I think some people are complaining about that as well. And then nothing up top. So overall, the speakers are nice. They're just not the best, but they are pretty good to me. I've always liked what Apple's done with their earpiece and down-firing speaker. They're definitely a little bit better than most. So that about sums it up as far as build quality. I just wish they would have done something different with the side, and it seems a little rushed with the way they did the camera just to get everything to fit here. Now I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. Face ID, it works, and it actually works pretty well, and I've got it on the full, whatever you want to call it, full security, to where it's unlocks a little slower than or at less of an angle than some. I don't understand what the whole need for having this high security feature. I mean, do you work for the NSA? Who cares if your twin brother can unlock your phone? That's just silly in my opinion, to keep all this testing, all this wasting of time just to see if you can unlock it. How many secrets do you really have on your phone? And I realize financial stuff is a big deal if you have that on there, but that's probably not what most people are worried about. They're worried about who they've been talking to recently. So the notch, do you notice it all that much? Do you get used to it? Well, it depends. Do you actually use your phone? Because this would be about the only time you don't really notice it. To me, once you unlock this, it's there. It's always there. And I don't get used to it myself. It just, the way it crops around stuff makes it seem like a bit of a rushed product. And some apps don't. They'll actually just border it all the way down, which makes the screen even smaller. Especially when watching a video. Stuff just gets kind of cut off on the side, or just looks weird when it goes around it. So it makes the display actually smaller than some of their other phones. So that is what it is. I just don't care for it. And they're gonna stick with this design, it looks like, if some of the leaks are true. Display-wise, pretty good display. I actually like it. It seems fairly accurate. It's very, it's got some punch to it, but it's not dull. It's right there in the good spot. Apple's always done great with their calibration on colors. However, sometimes, and I know this may seem weird to complain about this, because my 5T actually, when I do a video for that, you'll hear me complain about how dim it looks outdoors. Not a problem with this, but it's actually hard to get it dimmed down enough to where it doesn't bother you at night. If you're trying to get a quick text, check something while you're in bed, all the lights are off, it is very bright. I leave True Tone off. I don't like the way it looks. It makes things look yellowish to me, almost like the blue light filter's on. Some people love it. It's just not for me. So I think I could be wrong. Some of the dimming is built into that. Maybe that's part of what my problem is. Maybe I just need to suck it up and start using True Tone. But so display, like I'm trying to say, it's a nice display. It just needs a little bit of calibration in terms of brightness. So a lot of things can be fixed with software for this phone, but that all should have been ready out the gate. And the new gesture system, I don't have anything open here. Let's go ahead and open a few apps up. It's just not for me. Some think it's intuitive. I don't have my SIM in this. It's in my 5T right now. I would feel like you could just close out your app like usual. It actually took me a second to realize what you had to do. I just found that a little silly not to implement it the way it was, because after all, oops. Let's go ahead and open that. You could just do that and swipe it away anyways. Why have it? It just doesn't make any sense. And maybe I'm using things wrong. Maybe I'm just not that smart of a guy. I just don't feel like I prefer the way now Android does things over Apple. Or iOS, shall I say. This used to be what everybody tried to be like, and now the way Android does things, I feel like it's better. Apple's going backwards, not forward with some things. And then there's the switching of apps at the bottom. This actually caused me problems when using my video editor, because I was trying to make adjustments on timing or sound or something, and I was closing the app. Basically, I was swiping to the other app, and that was really frustrating for me. So some stuff can be improved, but I don't know how much they're going to really change, because all the core features are already in here, and I just don't care for them. Some people love it. It's just too much swiping for me. I just like the way Touch ID worked. But that's gone now. Maybe one day we'll get it back. Maybe we'll get in that logo after all. Probably not, but anyway, or in the screen. I don't know how that would go. Battery life has been a bit of a disappointment. I don't know if it's the new screen, because the battery's actually right at the same size as my 8 Plus, but if you go by what iOS says, I could get 7 to 10 hours out of that, where I'm getting about 6. Now, some say they're getting way more than what I am. That's why, battery life is very subjective by the user, but I've even gone back and cut off app refresh and all that other stuff that typically would be killing your battery potentially in the background, and it still did nearly the exact same thing. Didn't change much. So that's a bit of a letdown, to have a more expensive phone have less battery life than, I don't want to say cheaper device, but the device that most would be considered underneath of it. So battery life is a no-go for me on this phone, unfortunately. And the camera, didn't really go over that, I guess. The cameras are good, not leaps and bounds better than their previous phones or other phones out there. I mean, really, you would have to be nitpicking pretty good to find the differences between them. They're very slight and subtle, and I believe you gain stabilization on the second, something, I can't quite remember what the difference in the second camera was, because I usually just use it for quick videos for this. And that's about it. Most everything else is still photography. And you do have the emojis on the front, which some people were had a little bit of fun with, but I have a feeling it's going to kind of die off very quickly, just like Pokemon Go. It's cool at first, I guess, and then you kind of forget about it. And that's exactly what I did. I forgot about it already, and it's not something I care to really ever use again. And from what I understand, it actually uses the regular camera and not the new sensor, which is flashing at you right now for that. So some people were disappointed to find out you could actually have it on the other phones, and Apple chooses not to give it to you. So camera, battery life, build quality decent, but that notch is very hard to get past. And for $1,000, to me, this just feels like a little bit of a rushed phone. Yes, it has some waterproofing or water resistance, and it has wireless charge, but this is just really expensive overall, not only to buy, but to fix if you ever have a problem with it. For me, it's going to be a pass. I'm actually just going to end up selling this. I don't like the gestures. I don't care about animojis. The notch is, I'm frankly just dumb looking. I don't care for it. If you can get used to it, that's great. I can't. I'm always looking at a smaller display or something that's cut off, and it just doesn't work for me. And having a little bit better camera than the 8 Plus, but poor battery life, in my opinion, it's just not something I plan on keeping. But of course, everybody's different. Some people love it. The new form factor is easier to hold. Another thing, actually, before I forget, the way it's split. I guess some people feel like this is something new, but for people who've had Huawei before, they actually had a similar system and everybody hated it. But now nobody's got a problem with the fact that Apple did it. Yeah, I realize it's a little different, but it still split it in two. And I just don't care for it. Again, some changes that just weren't really something that needed to be changed. So we'll see what Apple has next year. Maybe it'll be something that I'll be impressed by, but if they keep that notch, I think I'm just going to skip those altogether. Until next time, later.